Hi guys, welcome to the Headphone Show. Stop that. Today I'm going to do a quick impressions video on the brand new iFi Hip DAC. This is a DAC amp combo that comes in right at around $150. Now, this is not a full review video. This is just a quick highlight impressions video because I haven't had a chance to properly put this through its paces. I've really just spent a little bit of time with it to see how well it powers some of the headphones that I would care about. So right here we have the Focal Elegia. We have the Odyssey LCD1 and then the Hi-Fi Sandara here, which is hanging out, swaying behind the LCD1. And actually, a lot of you guys have asked me about the Sandara in my recent video, whether or not this needs an amplifier. And the answer to that is yes, it does. I would not run this off of a phone unless it specifically has an amplifier in it. And then something like the iFi Hip DAC comes along, and I think that's exactly the kind of thing that you should be looking at if you want to get the best bang for the buck. Obviously, you can do quite a bit better if you spend more money, but for a lot of people, the $350 that you'd spend to get the Sandara is already, at the upper limits of the budget, and you don't want to stretch that too far by getting, a higher end standalone DAC and a higher end standalone amp. So you can get a portable DAC amp combo. Now, obviously, I think the best solution for the Hi-Fi Sandara would be something that's more of a standalone desktop amplifier, because this is not exactly a portable headphone, whereas both of these other two could potentially be that. But I just wanted to bring this out as well because it is something that the Hip DAC can actually power. So what exactly is the Hip DAC? Well, like I mentioned, this is a portable DAC amp combo. You get about 0.4 watts, so it's not the most powerful in the world, but it's also enough to drive everything here. As long as you're not using any kind of crazy high impedance or low sensitivity headphones, you'll be able to drive it just fine with this. But I wanted to also mention what you get with this. So for the connections, you get a standard 3.5mm here, and that's actually what all these headphones use. And then, strangely, you get a balanced Pentacon connector here. That's unique. It seems to me like the industry is still trying to figure out what the best solution is for balanced outputs that aren't XLR. A lot of equipment uses the 2.5mm connectors, and a few of them that I've seen recently as well now have started using this Pentacon connector too. So it seems like there's no clear consensus there yet, but it's interesting to me that the Pentacon connector is here, and this may be one of the only amp DAC combos of this size that has that connector on it. But then beyond the outputs, you also get an X bass and a power match button. And with both of these, the power match was actually the most interesting. Even when using something like the Sandara, which requires a little bit more power, I would just push the button and it would immediately have enough power there for the Sandara. So that was pretty cool. You do obviously get the satisfying volume knob, and it has that almost kind of like flask look that I think there's a few other companies that are doing this kind of stuff as well, but it's effective because remember, it's called Hip DAC for a reason. This is supposed to fit into your pocket. So there are obviously a number of uses for this. You could connect it with a phone using this cable here, the on the go cable, but I ended up just using it mostly with my laptop, and this was just this solid portable DAC amp combo. That makes it easy to hook up to whatever else, whatever I was using. So what is the actual DAC in here? Well, this is using a Burr Brown chip. iFi is all about the Burr Browns, and I think a lot of people like that. Just to characterize that a little bit, it's not the overly bright and analytical type of sound that you get from something like an ESS DAC. It's a little bit more relaxed sounding, at least to me. It's a little bit smoother sounding. And this is actually right in line with what I was expecting, sounding a little bit more similar to the Nano and the Micro Black Label, and not like that other high-end Pro IDSD that I reviewed recently as well. So this is, again, reminiscent of the other DACs that they have, just coming in at a much lower price in a very small form factor. So really, this is not something you'd use to power your crazy high-end headphones that require a desktop amplifier source setup. This is instead something that you would use to power something like one of these. Actually, it's a great combo with the Focal Elegia, just fine for the LCD1, and because again, these are more portable headphones, they're geared towards portability a little bit more than the Sandara. And as far as formats, you have DSD, of course, that iFi is all about DSD. You get DXD, PCM, and MQA, and personally, I am not particularly into any of that stuff all that much, but for those of you guys who are specifically looking for that, this definitely has it. I think with this form factor, the MQA is probably the most interesting part. This is also smaller than most other portable DAC amp combos. The only thing I can think of that's really more portable than this is either the Radson ES100 or the Dragonfly series from AudioQuest. And in my opinion, the sound from this is absolutely better than the ES100. And I think it's just a little bit different from the Dragonfly series, like the Dragonfly Red and Dragonfly Black. Those ones use the ESS chip. So it's just a different type of sound that you get from this DAC here. So I think this is going to be fairly popular when it does release fairly soon here. For anybody who has headphones that are more like these, they're office headphones, a little bit more portable, or they're taking them to events and things like that. In my mind, there's always a choice to be made between a digital audio player and something like this. You basically need to decide if you're going to go the phone route or if you're going to go with the separate digital audio player route. And I do think that there are good reasons to go the phone route, because remember that the interfaces for a lot of those digital audio players are really not that great, or they're fairly slow. And with something like this, you can just use the interface on your phone, and that makes it quite a bit easier to use. For sound quality, really this is entry level, and we're not talking about anything that's crazy high end that's going to compete with, you know, the 500 plus market or the $1,000 plus market. But for those who just want to get most of the way there, and they're not trying to get the absolute last little bit of performance out of their headphones, this is a solid option, at least for stuff that, you know, maybe it doesn't require a ton of power, but it requires a little bit of power, which is the way that most headphones are going these days anyways. So very interesting product here from iFi. All right, that does it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.